now, and I want to tell you how this the session is going to run. Firstly, we're going to invite about, I don't know, 5, 6 people on the call to just introduce themselves to us and to say to us why they decided to join the call today. So when you introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, which organization, where you are physically in the world, just so that we can get a sense as to where we are and how people are distributed around the country. And then why did you decide to join the school this morning? So who wants to start? And the way to indicate that you want to speak is to raise your hand on the, not do this, but actually there's a button that you can press on your screen to raise your hand on Zoom. It will raise a little blue hand. If you struggle to find that button, you can just unmute yourself, and that will help me know that you want to say something. So I see Lindy has, I don't know whether Lindy's just joined, but Lindy, if you do want to say something, just unmute yourself again. So Sonia Kruger has just, Sonia, have you just joined?
Hello.
Or say something.
Yes.
Sonia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Everyone.
Yes, I'll do that. I'm Sonia Kruger. I live in Potchefstroom. I am the chair of Imago Africa. The reason why I wanted to participate was because I'm also in a leadership position, and I'm just very curious as to seeing how other women in the world are going to lead in this time. So I'm not really sure exactly what to expect from today. But the organization I stand for is, we are a bunch of therapists and facilitators doing a relationship therapy. It's called Imago Therapy, and we are interested in spreading this wonderful tool to homes, communities, politics, everywhere. So that's just in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sonia. Thank you for joining us. We had someone else someone else had unmuted themselves, and then I muted them because I just didn't want to have the background noise. Anybody else who want to say why they joined, why they wanted to join? So we heard from Sonia from Krugersdorp. If you want to speak, just unmute yourself. We're going to just have one person at a time unmuted to not have too much noise. Kate from the Midlands, I think. Kate, can you unmute yourself? And then just speak.
Hi everyone, I am Kate Blaine from Learn to Lead. I am in Cape Town.
Sorry, I had another person in mind. Sorry, Kate.
No problem at all, no problem. I see you've got 74 people on this call. Yeah, so not a problem at all. And yeah, I think similarly, I think that when I saw the invite, I just thought, I didn't really actually think too much about it. And yeah, I think it was a sort of unconscious, yes, I've got to be part of this. And I think the unconscious driver in me was just to really hear how other people are coping. My business is a training and development company. We do a lot of simulations and training through games. It's very hands-on. So yeah, this is requiring a complete rejig for me and different mindset. And yeah, I think it's a time to just pause and gather information. And I thought, let me hear what other ladies, other women around the world are doing and thinking. So that's me.
Thank you very much, Kate. And that's useful kind of context for our panelists to speak into. We had one of these calls yesterday, and it was just lovely to hear how such a sense of solidarity and community that came out of that. So thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Kate. Let's hear Heather Swinnert. I see you've unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something?
Not right yet, thank you.
Not yet. So that was just a late joiner who was unmuted when she joined. So anybody else who want to say something about why did you decide to join the school this morning? I see Pam Pickens got her hand up. Pam, you're on. If you can unmute, you are unmuted. So
yeah, I think I am unmuted. Hi everybody. Hi Louise. I'm a leader in the early childhood sector, and we face real challenges in getting food and early learning materials and parent support out to people in remote communities who don't have access to the technology that we have. And I'm hoping to hear, as always, inspiring stories from Symphonia and what's happening, and just to give me the energy to carry on under very trying circumstances. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Pam. So just to give you all a little bit of context, so my name is Louise van Rhyn. I run the Symphonia group of companies at the moment, Symphonia Leadership Development, which is the organization that arranged this call this morning. And then I'm also the lead of Symphonia for South Africa, which is a not-for-profit, and we support school principals and specifically and active citizens and people who want to make a contribution. And what's happened this week as a result of the corona crisis, we've now been forced into a emergency relief exercise around food. So we're trying to get food to hungry children. It's very trying. We're quite disappointed with what the structures are able to do, but we're doing everything we can to see whether we can get food to hungry children. And so you won't hear lots about Symphonia today, but we are an organization that's committed to the idea of community, and during this time our hashtag is Together Apart. We realize that we can still create a very strong sense of solidarity and community between us, and specifically women who can support each other and create ways to support each other virtually. So today is just, it's a small snippet of what's possible. After the call yesterday, there were lots of people who said, I'd like to offer something more comprehensive to this community, and we as Symphonia are going to do everything to see whether we can make that possible and contribute to that. So our call, thank you for all of those who've shared why you joined the call. Is anybody else who's dying to say why they joined the call before we continue? Brenda Scrooby. Brenda, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Morning, everybody. Yes, I'm excited to be part of this call, sitting in Modimolle in Limpopo. Quite often when we see these leadership sessions being offered for women, it's with great envy because we're such a distance away. So in spite of quite a busy time within PFP, I thought I can't miss this opportunity to just tap into the wealth of women around our country. So thanks for that, Louise, much appreciated.
It looks like we might have temporarily lost Louise. Nicolette, are we finding her back again? And she's back.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. This is our beautiful internet connection that's supposed to be very strong and fiber and all that stuff, and off it goes. So, and I thought it was Brenda's connection that was a problem, but clearly it wasn't Brenda, it was my connection. So where were we? So we're going to start now by asking our panelists to share with us their thoughts on this topic, which is quite broad, and is deliberately quite broad because we wanted to just create a space for people to contribute what they want to contribute. So the topic was doing things differently, staying connected, sharing creativity, and sustaining enthusiasm to succeed. And we're going to ask our panelists to speak in the order that they're on the screen. And we're going to do it in a very particular way. So, well, actually, we're first going to do a brief introduction from every panelist. So literally 1 minute for every panelist to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll hear from all of the panelists, and then we're going to go to Lau, and she's going to have 6 minutes to share her thoughts. So let's hear, Lau, can you unmute yourself and just introduce yourself to us?
Yes, good morning. My name is Layo Sariki. I'm a leadership and self-development coach. I'm also a mother to a 10-year-old son. I'm a partner to my husband, daughter to my mother who lives in Germany, sister to my sisters spread out around the world. So my mind has been very busy lately, as everyone's probably, and I've realized I've been needing to ground myself. I'm probably not the only one, so I decided instead of talking a whole lot, I'd like to use this minute to take you with me on a little mini meditation to ground. So please, if you'd like to all close your eyes and take a deep breath, become present. And remember that your breath is always present in the here and now. Breathe and fill your body with life. And as you breathe out, let all the tension flow out. And remember that this is the place from which you can connect with whoever and whatever is relevant right now. So bring your awareness back into the room, the physical one and the virtual one. And maybe you want to smile as you open your eyes and look back at everyone on the screen. You're muted, Louise. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. We will now go to Liz Dewing. Liz, you're on.
Hi, everyone. Under normal circumstances, I'm a worker with words. I'm a public speaking and storytelling coach and a facilitator. But right now, I think I would describe myself most as a resilient pragmatist who is trying to find meaning and value in the times we're living through. My uplifting thought to start off with is that I really think the situation has the opportunity or the potential to bring a very different sort of focus and determination to the way government and society at large tackle the real state of social division in our country. Because it's become starkly apparent, and no doubt will become more so as we progress, that we can't carry on with business as usual. The divide between those who have and those who have not is so catastrophically enormous, and it threatens all of us. In a situation like this, you know, the people most at risk are the people with the fewest resources in a way. And I think the spirit now is very different from the temporary high that follows something like the World Cup. And a lot of the political pot-shotting has come to an end, and there's some really meaningful collaboration going on. And I'm particularly inspired by... You've muted me, Louise. Ah, hello, I'm back again. So I think we could emerge from it with a very profoundly different political and social landscape, and that would be my grand hope. You're muted, Louise.
I tell you what, it's just, this has been a long week. So thank you, Liz. Thank you for introducing yourself and for getting us a sense as to what we can look forward to a bit later. Thank you very much. Mel Tomlinson from Nelspruit is up next.
Morning, everybody. Thank you, Louise, for creating this platform and for inviting me to be part of it. I'm from Nelspruit, so I always feel like it's a little bit like the back of Beyond and that we're a bit behind the Joburg schedule. I'm a business coach, and I own a personal mastery program called Performance Booster that is available as a licensed product to coaches. And I'm grateful that that is my occupation, and I'm very challenged at the moment as well, obviously, by not being able to go out and facilitate my work in person. And I think that something that I'm being very challenged by at the moment is I feel like I'm a recovering human doing, and I'm being challenged to be a human being. And I see great opportunity in this for me and for the world, for us all to really become human beings in under stressful and new circumstances. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing with everybody and learning from everybody this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Mel. And I assume that the reason why we haven't got Mel's video on is because the connectivity to Nelspruit has been a real challenge this week. So maybe, oh, now we've got Mel's video on. So now we can see your beautiful face. We now have a sense of Mel, and we look forward to talking a little bit more and to hearing more from Mel later. Let's hear from Robin Hay.
Hey everyone, I am an attorney and I actually specialize in assisting distressed businesses. So at the moment, I feel like I'm in a triage unit. I get anything from 4 to 10 inquiries every day from struggling business owners. Before you think that I have thus become the richest human in the world, some people actually can't even afford to liquidate. They're just closing their doors and essentially running away, and their problems are just compounding, but their view is, look, I'll deal with it later, I can't right now. So I feel a little bit like the thorn amongst the roses with our speakers, but the truth is, the uplifting side of what I see is I've got 60 experience in this field, and I know that people who go through the trauma of a liquidation, which one of the things that I do is I walk alongside the business owner and make sure that that business owner can, with a minimum amount of damage to them, their lives, are able to go through the process. And with almost without fail, business owners who then start again in whatever form that may be, they are infinitely more successful. And for me, the big reward in what I do is to change someone's life, to help them to walk through one of the hardest parts of their life and be there when they start again. So it is tricky for me to have wonderfully uplifting stories right now, but there are uplifting stories, and I look forward to listening and contributing in that regard.
Fantastic. Thank you, Robin. And we look forward to hearing from you. And whew, it's a tough world to be in, the world of businesses that are struggling, and specifically struggling now. Zianda had a bit of a challenge with her internet connection earlier. I don't know whether she's been able to get that resolved. Zianda, if you have been able to get your internet connection resolved, we'd love to hear from you now. Oh, there you are.
Hi, Louise. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but it keeps...
You can?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So it keeps breaking on my side, but I hope it won't break as I speak.
We can hear you.
All right, great. So my name is Zianda Masiza. I am based in Centurion, Pretoria, Gauteng province, but I'm originally from the Eastern Cape. What I do for a living, amongst others, is leadership coaching, and I do facilitate leadership interventions or leadership development workshops. And what really made me say yes to the invitation, thank you, Louise, for having me here, is whilst I understand what we are going through and the trauma and the negative experiences, to be curious about how we can strengthen our conscious muscle in order for us to know how to prepare for the unknown. So I agreed to be part of this because I think I do add value in this consciousness muscle, just for us to be more conscious of how we feel, what we do, and what to do. So that's my part to play today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Zianda. Okay, so how this is going to work is we're going to give each of our 5 panelists, 6 minutes each. And so they're going to use those 6 minutes in whatever way they want. I will keep time. And after 6 minutes, I'm going to ask one of the women, and we're not deciding upfront who that is. It's just going to be whoever feels called to do that, to just give a quick few words of appreciation to the person who was brave and courageous enough to speak. And just, and we want to, this is an opportunity for us to be as open-hearted as we want, and we want to kind of just, we're really looking for, if you've been touched in any way, don't just say it on the chat. Also be that one person who is going to speak into the heart of the speaker. And then we'll have a few more minutes to hear from people in response to that. So we'll hear one person specifically who will just express appreciation, and then a few other people who will respond, and then we'll go to the next person, and the next person will have 6 minutes. So the first person up is Lau, and Lau, you have 6 minutes, and I will let you know when the time is up.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Louise. And this is a nice surprise. I didn't know I had 6 minutes. I was told at first I've only got 1 minute and to pack everything in. And I had been thinking that, well, it doesn't really matter, because I felt like there's not, my focus is not on speaking at the moment. And I realize now I am speaking, and I probably do have something to say. Looking at the topic of this meeting, of how we need to do things differently, and we are doing things differently these days. What I've noticed with the beginning of this corona crisis hitting the world, people have either withdrawn and become depressed, despondent, and almost giving up, or a lot of people in my field of work, in our field of work, in leadership development, have gone into this frenzy of activity. It's almost like there's a lot of anxiety, there's the panic, there's, okay, we need to do things new ways, we need to get different types of coaching going, we need to put the workshops online. And yes, I am one of those people. I'm also redeveloping my workshops so that I can work online. And at the same time, I've really noticed that sometimes the frenzy of activity is just too much, that we need to step back and take those deep breaths and check in with ourselves and with the world. What is really needed first? And that we need to connect with ourselves before we can reach out and connect with others again. It's so important that we stay connected with others, but within that, all that activity, we need to really remain connected to ourselves so that we can do that work well. And what that has meant to me is that I've put some things on hold, and I'm taking more time to restructure workshops and to really think about what's the best way to do things in a new way, to offer workshops or coachings online. The coachings are relatively easy. I think workshops need a whole lot more restructuring, because I've realized doing a 2-day or 3-day workshop on a screen like this doesn't work that well. I've tried it, some colleagues have tried it, it's completely draining. You get something out of it, but it's not like sitting in the room with people. So I'm trying to restructure things to be shorter, like 2-hour, 3-hour sessions, and more of those, so that people can stay concentrated and they're not staring at the screen the whole time. I've noticed that your eyes start watering, they start burning, your concentration is there in a very different way. So we also need to remind ourselves to look away from the screen once in a while, to look around us, see what's going on out there, to get up and have breaks and check in with our bodies, how we're feeling. So that whole body awareness becomes even more important in these times, and really the connection to self, so that we are able to be fully present for others when we are connecting with other people. And yes, we're at home with our families, and in a very different way as well. So restructuring our day so that all of that works when everyone is in the same house is also a challenge and an opportunity, and can work really well, but we need to take time to figure things out, I think. And I think that's all I want to say for now.
That is fantastic, Laura. That's a great start. With in our PFP community, we have been making a big song and not a big song and dance. We've been focusing a lot of our effort on this idea of own mask first this time, and how do we care for ourselves, and how do we create an opportunity, just for ourselves to kind of connect with what's happening before we become so focused on everybody else. Let's hear from one person who wants to respond to what she's heard from Lau. Just anybody who was touched by what Lau said. And this is, we don't want you to wait. We just want you to step into the space.
Hello. Hi, Louise. Ruth here.
So Ruth, is that Ruth who wants to say something?
Yes.
Yes. You're very
Hi,
welcome.
everyone. I think I just want to say a big echo to Lau. You've really put into words what I've been feeling. And I've also been bouncing between feeling completely demotivated and then like seeing what everyone else is doing and hearing people talk about all these different things and feeling like this pressure of like, oh, you know, I should be doing, I should be doing something. And in all of this, I've also been carrying on with some of my other work because I do a range of things. Well, I do HR and change management and facilitation. And so my HR stuff has taken a lot of my attention at this moment. And I think I just want to say thank you. You've like confirmed that we need to just pause and actually take a breath.
And put our own mouth on first. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Let's just, if there's maybe one other person who wants to say something about what you heard from Lau now.
Hello, it's Caroline.
Hello, Caroline.
I'm sitting here in Gordons Bay overlooking the sea, and I want to say to Lau that I agree with her so wholeheartedly. One of my big wishes is to start working in the workshop space virtually, and I need to do a 6-hour workshop with a bunch of students in May. And I spoke to the coordinator yesterday and said, you know what, I think 6 hours is just too much. So I really appreciated her view on the fact that your eyes start to water. You need to really think about how you're going to engage with people virtually over that amount of time. So yeah, I just wanted to say that really resonated with me, and thank you for chatting with us today.
Thank you, Carolyn. And I think those of us who've been experimenting for this, there's now a great opportunity for us to play with this idea of blended and, you know, some pre-work that people will read for themselves, and then to split the sessions up into 90-minute sessions, because that feels to me is like the maximum we can do. And I would be interested to know whether we can over time create opportunities for people to share best practice around this, because so many of us are now grappling with this. Let's hear, Lau, any responses, any final thoughts from you before we go to the next person?
Yes, thanks for those responses that I got there. And I think, Louise, what you say is really important, that we will have to sort of do our learnings and then share best practices. Because yes, some of us have worked online and before, but not as much and not to the extent that we will be doing now. And we'll have some experiences where we say, oh, that didn't work so well, let's change it. And that is completely okay. So I think that's something else that comes into the picture, that we need to be kind to ourselves and gentle with ourselves and allow ourselves to make those mistakes as we're trying new things and learn from them. And we'll all grow from this, I think.
Absolutely. I want to, you just reminded me, I did a call this morning with, I want to quickly get this on my screen. We did a call with our school principal community, because as you know, we support school principals. And I read this piece from Brene Brown, who's one of my heroines, and she sent a message out to all of us. Some of you may have received it, but I want to just read it as a kind of response, a final response to what Lau said. She says, this pandemic experience is a massive experiment in collective vulnerability. We can be our worst selves when we're afraid, or our best, bravest selves. In the context of fear and vulnerability, there is often very little in between, because when we are uncertain and afraid, our default is self-protection. We don't have to be scary when we are scared. Let's choose awkward, brave, and kind. And let's choose each other. And so I'm inspired by the idea that we can choose awkward, brave, and kind, and to choose each other. And for me,
I love that, Louise. Thanks.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it's lovely.
So inspired by that. Thank you, Lars. So we'll open the floor later again for people to contribute. We now want to go to our next panelist, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, it's Liz Dewing. So Liz, you have 6 minutes.
Thanks, Louise. I'm going to be talking about a couple of things that I think are helping in the environment, from stuff that I've seen and been exposed to. And one of the things that I've seen done well recently, and I think really is helping in the environment I'm currently working in, is early, transparent, and regular communication. So the focus on COVID-19 and planning for a changed reality began in the company I'm working with a good month before it started hitting the real public stage and becoming a focus of government. You know, there was newspaper stories, but it really wasn't surging into our consciousness in the way that it subsequently did. And I think some of those early communications internally might have felt a bit dramatic to start with. But where it really mattered is I think my colleagues felt significantly safer and less inclined to panic when it really did surge to the forefront, because they'd already been prepared on some level by the communication that had been taking place internally. So for me, that is a really great lesson about being willing to step in and have the hard conversations sooner rather than later. Being willing to step into that very scary potential conflict space and get real and have a conversation rather than waiting for it to come out in the wrong way because you've hit a pressure point or there's a straw that's broken the proverbial camel's back. So that was one that's really useful for me. You don't have to have all the answers. People don't expect you to have all the answers, but they need you to be willing to start the conversation anyway. And I know I feel significantly safer myself being led by someone who's willing to face up honestly to the scale of what we're dealing with than I would be if I was being led by somebody who was trying to downplay the enormity of the whole situation. So that's the one for me. And I think that fits into the brave space. The second thing that I've seen make a difference is when we remember that we have the power to choose our paradigm and to be more conscious of the power that the language we use has to affect our own state of mind. So I vividly remember going to a workshop that was delivered by Patch Adams, where he talks about the subliminal messaging that we're all exposed to. So things like the heading of newspapers, there's a definite article, a the, in the name of the newspaper, the Argus, the Daily Mail, the New Yorker, and the message, the subliminal message of that the is, this is all you need to know. This is the only news. This is the one definitive version of the truth. And if you stop and pause and think about it, you know that's not true. That is not all we need to know about what's going on. If I look at Robin's introduction, for instance, I love the fact that she very consciously, deliberately chose to seek a way to reframe what it is she's experiencing and to use language that actively draws out something positive, something constructive, something encouraging about walking through. And I think all of us have that option to both guard our own mind, guard our own language, guard what we expose ourselves to, and guard the way we choose to express to others. And I'm not talking about censorship, but we can choose to be encouragers in the language that we use. We can choose to respond or react to the things that are irritations or to glide over them. And I think those who are conscious of how they frame what they're saying can really help to lift the mood and the state of mind of people in their sphere of influence. So for me, that's really, really important. And then finally, one of the things that I found fascinating for myself personally, and I think is really interesting for others, is this is a time where we have an opportunity to balance very differently. People can suffer very quickly from overload. So it's very easy to get locked into spending too much time online because you don't have those division rituals between being at work and going home. You don't have the drive home. You don't have the ability to go for your walk that you would normally go for after work or before work. So those transition rituals are broken. But I found for myself personally that as the drive for productivity is there, so the drive for creativity has surged up as well. And my house is a wall-to-wall craft zone at the moment. On every surface in my house, there's crochet, there's knitting, there's coloring in books, there's projects going on, and the left brain and right brain balance opportunity is something to focus on and be grateful for. I think it feeds into what Lau was saying as well about you know, managing your soul and your mind through this time, that we can choose to be more conscious about that. So for me, for instance, one of the things I do is a daily dash of deleting through my inbox. Before I start reading anything, I literally go through my inbox and I cull everything that I think is going to negatively impact my frame of mind, or that I know is it's tempting to read and might have useful stuff in there, but I choose not to engage with it because I don't think it's going to be helpful. And I choose to carve out moments in my day where I'm going to go and do something completely, in inverted commas, unproductive, but for me personally, massively productive. So those are my 3. Having the hard conversations sooner rather than later, being very conscious of your language, and then balance, just focusing on balance. That's my 10 cents.
Wow. Oh, I've been so inspired by people in our community. They're so wise. Thank you, Liz. That was fabulous. So who in our community wants to now respond to what you've heard from Liz? Just as specifically from a place of appreciation and gratitude to what Liz has just said. Who wants to say? Zarina. Yes, please. Zarina?
Hi, I think Elsa put her hand up as well.
Yeah, Zarina, so you can go and then we'll hear from Elsabe as well.
Okay. Now, I just wanted to touch on what Liz said about the language, the self-talk, your mind and what you say. And I think as leaders, we sometimes forget about that. The other important thing is women especially, you set the tone in your house. And if your internal mind is not set on the right path, you can actually cause havoc without even realizing it. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Zarina. And then that is so true. I think we are all being called to lead from whichever seat we're in. And if we're mothers and leaders in our household, that's a great place for us to influence what happens in our families. Elsabe, I see you wanted to say something as well.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. That was really meaningful. I work for a production company, and we also, our managing director also had the hard conversation ahead of things before it started happening. We were meeting and making difficult decisions about the company, etc. So that, and it makes you feel safe that it takes the unknown out of the, it makes the unknown less unknown, I guess, if you can say it like that. I kind of have a question on that, because you also said you did that with colleagues. And I think on a certain level with colleagues, having that hard conversations is great. But the hard conversations and the open communication, almost want to say down to employees and people who, that's more tricky because it's necessary, but I guess you can't you need to manage their uncertainty and the safety. Yeah, so I just want to get your opinion on that, because that looks different, because at some points the risk and the unknown for them are more, it's just different levels. I think you get what I'm saying. So that I just have a question on that, and thank you for all the practical examples in your own life that you shared. Thanks.
So Liz, before you respond, I just want us to kind of see what happens on the chat. So Sunette says, transparent communication is critical. Sometimes leaders hurt more with the things they don't say instead of keeping back due to fear of reaction. And then Zarina, that hard conversation, avoiding conflict is something many leaders can't do. Perhaps they're managers, not leaders. And then Sonia has an interesting perspective, because it is something that I've been kind of very, this thinking about balance is, on the one hand, we don't want to focus on what's hard and negative and fearful and anxiety provoking, but on the other hand, we don't want to kind of not allow ourselves to speak about that. So Sonia says, as Imago practitioners, we challenge people with zero negativity. And I don't think that's what you're saying, Liz, but it's just that, how do I not get sucked into that negativity? because it helps to consciously make choices about how you express yourself. So Liz, if you want to, or let's just, before we give to Liz, let's quickly hear, Sharon Golding has put her hand up. So Sharon, if you wanted to just share your thoughts. Oh, and Roz, the way to put your hand up is not to wave, it's to put your hand up on Zoom. But let's give Sharon a chance, then we'll go to Roz, and then we're going to give Liz a chance to quickly respond to that. Sharon.
Okay, thanks you. And thanks, Liz. I'm one of the facilitators for full consulting, so I'm not going to miss the trick here. And just something that you were talking about with regards to reframing, to trigger a conversation, a conversation I had yesterday with an HR client. As you said, migrating to virtual platforms and still collaborating and still encouraging group participation has brought about a whole.
I'm sorry, I'm going to just, I've muted Sharon, because we really can't hear you, Sharon. So it might be a good idea for you to switch your microphone off and have another go. Switch your, not your microphone, your video off, and then have another go to see whether we can hear you better.
Okay, is that any better?
Oh, much better.
Much better. Okay, there we go. So I just want to pick up where I was. So one of the things that we've really drawn attention to is this issue of contracting upfront. So if we want to be able to exercise the right to reframe, then one of the things we have to agree upfront are some of the ground rules as to how we are going to play in this new space. And just a very simple ground rule that we've introduced, it's a group of agents, sales agents, who are now working virtually but still contributing to group meetings. And one of the things we've said is it's okay to raise concerns, but if you're going to contribute to concern, you have to be willing to contribute to the solution. So making sure that we are all in agreement upfront as to what this new space will look like, in order to make sure that we have that autonomy on how we.
Thank you. I think we were losing Sharon again there. So let's go to Roz. But thank you, Sharon. We heard the essence of what you were saying. Let's go to Roz Karamba.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm sorry that I missed some of Liz's talk. I really enjoyed the insights you shared, though, in the last bits that I gained. Just wanted to share as well the word courage, that it really does require so much courage in corporate in order to have the hard conversations sooner than later, because some corporate cultures actually support or complement and reward people who actually acquired supporters, and not necessarily raising the conflict. And I think that is something that has really prevented people from actually addressing conflict, because they would just rather be seen to agree and not to everything, even though they disagree with it. But they want to remain in the good books of the corporate leaders who determine how they're going to transition on the corporate ladder.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's hear Liz's response to what people have been saying, Liz. Unfortunately, we don't have lots of time, but if you wanted to have a quick response to everything people have been saying.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to. Thanks, Louise, because I am fascinated by serendipity, you know, how things align, and synchronicity, how things come to you at the right time. So in terms of what Elsa B and Karen and Roz all raised, there is a fantastic model and a book I've been reading at the moment by a woman called Kim Scott, and it's called Radical Candor. And it is an absolutely fantastic sort of framework for looking at how you balance and how you do this kind of direct communication. And what it is, can I share my screen quickly? Okay, hold on a sec. Here we go. If you have a look at this, let me see if it can do it for us. Can you see that? Okay, I can't hear people. Just put Louise,
we can see
thumbs
it.
up. Okay, perfect. Right. So what it does is a lovely model, because on the vertical axis you've got the degree of caring that is shown. So do I care about you, and do I demonstrate that I care about you? From low care to high care, obviously. So if I'm able to make a point in the beginning of a conversation that I know you, I care about you, and I have a vested interest in you, and I'm sincere about that. Then my ability to challenge you directly can also be from the left to the right, low to high. The ideal block to be in is where you are able to be very caring and yet very direct. Because you care, because people trust that you care, you are able to be quite brutally honest with them in feedback, and it's very helpful and constructive. It still can feel hard, but because you have the trust of the deep care, you're able to be very direct. In the other blocks, you have the different things. So if somebody is very, very direct but doesn't care, that's where you have obnoxious aggression, where somebody's just brutal and is saying things that really don't land well. If you have somebody on the left-hand side who is very indirect but very caring, I love that block, ruinous empathy. That's completely ineffective, and it comes across as very insincere, and it erodes trust. And on the bottom-hand side, manipulative insincerity. So it's a really beautiful model, because it gives you, very clear tools on how do I engage with somebody in a way that they're going to be receptive to what I'm saying to them. And those two elements are what play into that. So I think that's a really helpful thing. Louise, if you want to just switch off my share screen, I'm not quite sure how to do that again.
How to do that? Let's see. I will just
here we go. Pause share. There we go. Stop share. There we go.
Thank you.
Done it.
Thank you very much, Liz. That was very helpful. Did you want to say anything else before we keep going? But that was very helpful for all of us.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the next person up who's going to be speaking is Melody Thompson. Mel Thompson, I don't know her as Melody, I know her as Mel from Nelspruit, runs Performance Booster, also involved in Partners for Possibility. And Mel, you have 6 minutes. I will keep time for you. You can just share with us what you want to share. And it would be great if you can, if the internet connection is going to allow us to see your face rather than just hear your voice. But we know that that's...
Are you seeing my video, Louise? Yeah, are you seeing my video?
Let's see. Yes, I can see your video.
Okay,
we've got
great.
a cut version of your face, but we've got, we've got...
you've got a cut-off version.
No, that's fine. We've got you fully.
Okay, fantastic, great,
Thank
we're all
you.
set. Yeah, I think for me, it's a great opportunity of self-observation and an important opportunity of self-observation. A couple of things that stand out for me in this is again, the use of language. So the impact of a word like lockdown. I mean, this first weekend literally was a weekend at home, and everybody started creating very strange behaviors and things that they would not have done had it been a normal long weekend. And it is just the impact of the word lockdown and the totally different behavior that we started engaging in. We are in at least a minimum of a 3-week period. So it's just, I've named this whole scenario from precious to practical for myself, because there's so many things that I observed that I was precious about that I now need to be practical about. And just reframing it and seeing it differently has a completely different effect on me. So instead of seeing it as this lockdown, I see it as a 3-week period. And in every portion of that period, we are going to go through and experience different things. So one of the things that we discussed on a group like this yesterday, the Over Coffee Confidence Zoom session, was meet people where they are at. Everybody is experiencing this at in a different way, but also meet yourself where you're at. So observing myself, I went from coach to cleaner in a day. We live in a guest house. My reality changed completely. All our TVs and all our internet were taken out. And I just had to go from being precious about what my position is, to being very practical about what needs to be done. I also went into complete, support my clients. What can I do? How can I help them get onto Zoom? Action, action, action. That is my go-to place when I feel insecure. I go straight into action. And I haven't taken a breath. I think I took a breath yesterday around about 1 o'clock for the first time. And realizing that, Mel, this is also an opportunity for you to take a breath. So, so many self-reflections and opportunities to learn so much about the way you react when you go into survival mode. And so I think we're really challenged to self-reflect and observe. And, you know, I know that Partners for Possibility, we highly recommend reflective writing. This is a wonderful opportunity for reflective writing and to just engage with how you respond in different circumstances, and then also allow that to change. So I've now moved into another phase. I hope I'm moving into another phase where I'm not, you know, holding my breath and trying to do 50 things at once. I am saying, okay, take a step back, Mel. I listen to some of the other people and I think, oh my word, I don't have one craft thing out because heaven forbid it messes up my space. So, and I don't have time for craft things yet, but that might come in week 2 or week 3. So I think a very important thing as well is just not to compare yourself to other people and where they're at. You are where you are at right now. It's the same thing when it comes to this online presence. I went ballistically into action mode, and by the Friday before lockdown, I'd already pulled together a Zoom group for my clients specifically, and now it's open to the broader public, called Beyond the Crisis. So I was already focusing beyond the crisis. I'm all about beyond. And watching that, then President Ramaphosa announced the lockdown, and that changed the next session significantly. Now, the session coming up on Friday will be a completely different session, because right now we are in the lockdown. We are not beyond the lockdown yet. So I think a lot of presence, a lot of self-reflection, and then a tool that I want to share that I've just started using again today from our CCI coaching model is asking yourself, what do I need to acknowledge, decide, or let go of today? So today I needed to acknowledge that I am going to be making breakfast for my husband for every single day for the next, how many ever days are left now, 16 days or something. I never made breakfast for him in my life except on holiday. So I need to acknowledge that. What do I want to decide about this? Do I want to decide that this is going to be an absolute pain in my butt and that I think he's being quite precious? Or am I going to decide to make this a joyful experience and let go of my angst around it and understand that I'm going to be washing dishes until 9 a.m. every morning and cleaning the kitchen? Or do I want to make this difficult for myself? So just let go of that preciousness. And we all have stuff like that in our lives. Let go of your hectic expectations of yourself. Anyway, I think my time is up now. Sorry, Louise. Louise, am I still alive?
No, we've still got a few minutes, but that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And everybody on this call can resonate with that. So now I've got Sonia has her hand up. I think she wants to respond to what you said. So Sonia, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Sure, Mel, I so resonate with what you are saying. I cannot tell you ladies how I was looking forward to this lockdown. I just so desperately needed the time and space to breathe. And then what happened was I realized that leading this organization, now something needs to happen in the space to take care of the community, empowering the rest of us to also take care of themselves. And then what happened was all this online explosion happens, and then I find myself in lockdown and still not breathing. So I so appreciate what you're saying, because that's exactly what I need to do, is to acknowledge where I'm at, and to decide what to do, and then decide what to let go of. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I'm also just, I've been reading the chats, or the messages in the chats, and it's just, you know, it's just so wonderful how when people are really honest and just share from their hearts, how it just makes a connection. So thank you, Mel. I think everybody can relate to what you were sharing there. Does anybody else want to say something briefly before we continue about in response to what you've heard from Mel? Any other? There's lots of stuff happening on the chat, and we will be saving the chat. We're learning how to save the chat. Thank you for our colleague from Old Mutual who shared it to us. I just want to, before we give Mel a chance to respond, maybe one or two more people who want to say something about what you've heard from Mel, or apart from all of the chat activity that's going on. So let's hear from Sanchia, and then we'll hear from Kuba, and then we'll go back to Mel. Sanchia.
Hi everyone, my name is Sanchia. So I'd like to use the internet as an excuse for the webcam, but I'm actually still in my pajamas. So yeah, just to add on to what Mel said, I had the strangest experience. So I travel 4 weeks a month. I'm only in Cape Town over weekends. So, you know, I was thinking the lockdown would be a chance for me to be at home, but I actually experienced the complete opposite, where I had this withdrawal from my everyday life that I was used to. And then on top of it, I was supposed to get married next weekend on the 11th of April. So I had to cancel the wedding, well, postpone it. I was a bridesmaid to a friend's wedding a week or 2 weeks ago before the lockdown, which ended up being quite a shambles in the end because it was too late for them to postpone. And I think I also deal with a lot of SMMEs and small businesses, and on a daily basis I have to hear, you know, the struggles that they're going through, the fact that they might close, they don't have money, they're laying off staff. And, you know, I think as women, we always try and be really strong and not show that any of this is affecting us. So I've never done Pilates or yoga before, and one of my friends was doing an online Pilates class, so I decided to join. And about 20 minutes in, I just had an absolute meltdown. Like, couldn't breathe, started crying. And it was because she was kind of just opening us up to be able to feel the emotions that we should be allowing ourselves to feel and not bury. And I must say, that was only on day 4 of lockdown. And I've been completely fine since and had a completely different attitude about things. And the one thing that really helped me was to understand that our bodies only know the present moment. It's just our minds and our hearts and our emotions that look at the past and that worry about the future. So whenever I start feeling anxious, I just ground myself and say, you know, you're safe, you're here, your body is fine now. What can you do now in this moment? So that's just my story over the lockdown period.
Oh, wow. What a story. What a story, Sanchia. So firstly, I think there's lots of responses to say we are heartbroken for you for having to cancel your wedding. One of our other colleagues also had to cancel her wedding. And there was so much wisdom in what you were saying just now. I personally just can't say enough how much a good old breakdown and a good old cry can do for us. So I'm a big promoter of crying when we need to cry, because I do that so well myself. But thank you, Sanchia, thank you. And our bodies only know the present moment. What beautiful wisdom that is. So let's go back to, Kuba, did you want to say something? You had yourself unmuted earlier? Or was
yes,
that?
just large appreciation for the group. Not all the faces are visible, not everybody's speaking, but when Mel says, do not compare yourself to others, we even comparing what we look like, who's wearing makeup, who's got lipstick, and this is a girl thing, this is what we do. And I have the joy of solo lockdown. So as Mel is wanting to bury Quibus together with the dirty dishes, I have the joy of eating a can of chickpeas when I'm hungry. and just embrace the fact that we all at different time slots in our lives. And yeah, this is going to hit all of us on a different level, in a different way. And that's just beautiful.
Thank you very much, Kuba. So now we'll go back to Mel to just hear whether, Mel, did you want to say anything else in response to what people said before we go to our next speaker? We are running out of time, so but you've got a few minutes.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for all that beautiful feedback, Sancha. Yeah, whew. I'm glad that isn't me, because I'm not quite sure I cope as well as you sound like you're coping. Yeah, what more can we say other than our choice is, are we going to come out of this better, or are we going to come out of this bitter? And I think that that is a conscious decision that each of us have to take way down in our hearts and figure out how we're going to come out of this better. So thank you, Louise, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you for everybody who contributed to that. We're now handing over to Robin, and Robin, you have 6 minutes, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Louise. I appreciate it. So you may be surprised to know that a lot of what the other speakers have dealt with are key to what I do. So one of the things with regards to vulnerability, Brené Brown is also one of my very favorites, is that I myself went through a liquidation in 2015. So it was very difficult for me. It's a bit like performing heart surgery on yourself. So when I do this work, often it hooks for me, often it creates a sense of extreme vulnerability. And one of the things that's very tricky about being an attorney is that your vulnerability or your emotional reactions to things have got to be cordoned off, because clients need you to hold a space, and to do that in a way that is kind and yet firm. I often find that often in circumstances where a client is extremely anxious, I will share my story with them. And that is also took me a long time. There's a lot of shame involved in a liquidation initially. And it's really forced me to meet people at their point of need. So it's easy to just throw out a system or a process and say, yeah, don't worry about it, we'll just sort it out, and there's a court application, there's this and there's that. But to really perform a service to people, it requires a sense of vulnerability and a sense of connection that belies what we as attorneys are assumed to be. And that connection can be tricky because you have to also keep a line that you don't get dragged into the emotions of your client. So your radical transparency, transparent communication is completely what's required. Clients need direct talk. They need transparency with regards to what their options are. They need guidance in a way that is clear and a way that doesn't sugarcoat what they're about to experience, because there's nothing worse for a client than trying to go through something so emotionally draining without having a light at the end of the tunnel and having somebody to walk with them. So how do I sustain my enthusiasm? Well, I would encourage all of you to look for the enthusiasm in the small things. So for me, I'm enthusiastic about the fact that I know that I can provide a good service. I'm enthusiastic about the fact that my clients feel better once I've seen them. And I do that, ironically, a lot of the time through the connection I have with my team and the connection our team has. I've got a lot of millennials in my team, which brings with it a whole nother range of matters and a range of topics. But the one thing I do love about my millennials is that they challenge your thinking, and they look at life more holistically than I have done, because I'm just I've always been in a very head down kind of imposter syndrome fighter and just doing what I need to do. And they really challenge that. and we sit down as a team and we strategize. And that is really where I find my true love. My true love, sorry, that doesn't sound good. It sounds like I'm in love with my millennials. I'm not so much in love with my millennials. I've been in front of the CCMA. But I really do enjoy the mentoring, the growth, the way that we can talk to each other about how difficult things can be and still be creative and accepting, and without maligning a client, be able to blow off some steam, because that is so important when you work in an environment where everything is like, it's just so almost oppressive. It sits on your chest sometimes. And I know that I'm not in the same space often as people like, oh goodness, I'm not sure what's going on here. Anyway, I've got a change in my screen, makes me nervous, wants to call my millennials, but anyway. I'm not always in the same space or have the same opportunities for connection or for building into people's lives that some of the other speakers here do. But what I do have is the opportunity to change someone's life, the opportunity to change their view on their circumstances, to help them reframe what is going on. And it is really difficult to encourage people when they are comparing themselves to others, and that's also a theme that's come through. So clients are comparing themselves to where other people are and how everybody else is successful and they're a failure. And one of the things that I see, and I know that it's true of the people that are on this call, and maybe it's trite and everyone's heard it, but I'm only a recent hearer of this, is that we compare our inside to other people's outside. And that's been something very powerful for me when it comes to talking to clients and dealing with this very difficult time in their lives.
Thank you very much, Robin. Whew, what a job. Kate is saying you sound like an incredibly empathetic attorney. Not many of them around, but we are delighted to have found one of the fabulous ones. Ruth is saying, I recently went through a liquidation with a client, and the way that it was facilitated by the liquidator left me completely disillusioned. So lots of wonderful responses there from everybody. I want to have one person say something to Ruth, to Robin in voice, not just chat, something about what touched you, about what she said. I see Mariki is unmuted. Mariki, is that because you want to say something?
Yes, I have actually met with Robin some time ago, and she is actually, through all the things that she has gone through, she is a lighthouse for so many people in this darkness. So, Robin, just go on like that. I applaud you.
Thank you, Mariki, but I really do want, it really is about other people, not so much about what I go through. But thank you so much for those kind words.
Anybody else who's desperate to say something in response to what you heard from Robin? Wanda, I see you're unmuted. No. Okay, so we'll keep going. Liz, do you want to say something?
Yeah, Robin, I'm fascinated by you are doing attorneying differently. And I'm interested to know whether attorneys in training are given any support or encouragement or learning in how to access empathy, or if that's something you personally have brought. And if you have brought that, is there an opportunity to share that more widely? Because I think it's powerfully important and it makes a huge difference in the way you do your job. And for instance, attorneys in family practice, it brings something qualitatively very different to the space that is profoundly important.
So we use the Enneagram model in our practice. So what we do is we do a lot of work around where individuals sit in the Enneagram. And although you can't use the Enneagram on other people, we do in theory. We've got really two types of people in our practice. Well, many types, but the type that are the most difficult are your unhealthy 8s. So you're very aggressive. You know, they're great when they're healthy. They're an absolute nightmare when they're not. And I find as a rule, you know, attorneys aren't given any support. Not at law school. I mean, our suicide rate is very high. Not in our training. So it really would be fantastic if we could get some kind of almost psychological training as how to separate ourselves from that. But the people that that really drain us are not our clients, ironically, are not the clients that are the most emotionally demanding, but it's the clients that are dismissive and who pay us money to ignore our advice or shout at us, or that's actually very difficult. So for me, a lot of my mentoring and training for my team is actually around the empathy tends to come quite naturally because of the environment I've created, but the dealing with your unhealthy 8s, your angry, narcissistic clients, that's really where we have to do a lot of training, because that can be very damaging to young lawyers.
Thank you very much, Robin. Thanks, Liz. There's another big conversation possible here. Unfortunately, I see Kate's hands up. Kate, I'm not going to come to you right now just because we are running out of time. So we want to create an opportunity for our last contributor, Zianda, to have her 6 minutes. And then hopefully we can hear from Kate after Zianda. Kate, I'm going to look for your hand after she's spoken. But Zianda, if you're still on the call with us, are you still on the call? Yes. And you're
I'm still here. Thank you.
6 minutes. You have 6 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much, Louise. So I was just reflecting now on how much changed so quickly for all of us globally, right? Specifically in South Africa, where I am. And I was just thinking, in the first week of March, actually the first 2 weeks, if I look at my calendar, things were just normal. I was doing workshops face-to-face. I was mostly doing my coaching face-to-face, though majority of it is online. And things were okay. And then in the third week to the fourth week of March, things drastically changed. And I've gone through what everybody else probably going through, where my mind was also telling me that I had symptoms. So even if I sneezed, I worried. So my mind did play tricks with me, and I got frustrated and so on and anxious, until I said to myself, okay, I need to apply the very same things I teach my clients about centering myself, about raising my own consciousness around what I think and feel, and redirecting my own thoughts so that I can impact positively what I think and feel. So from the third week, when they said lockdown, well, number one, I'm an extrovert. I like being outside. So my first worry was, I don't like being indoors. That was my issue that I struggled with. And I said, okay, fine. How can I look at this thing differently? And I started to observe people like Bill Gates. We're no longer talking about how they can make money in this period. They were talking about humans becoming human and doing so together. So I started to see that there's something that's shifting, if I can call it, in the spiritual space, in the non-physical space. Something is taking form that I know nothing about, and I want to explore. And in my meditations, I started to ask, what does it mean to be human now and going forward? And I've decided to focus on that. I've decided to focus on, what does it mean for us? How are we going to navigate life, work, everything else beyond the pandemic? So how do I need to prepare myself now for then? Because in my view, things have already changed. Some people think things are changing, the world has changed already. I have never seen the way it is now. As an example, yesterday someone sent me from the UK, sent me a link where I can listen to a radio in Kenya, I can listen to a radio in America, a radio station via my phone. And I was like, this is connectivity at another level. And I said, okay, I need to be human. But as I'm going through that to understand what it means to be human for me, because it's a unique journey that I must go through, I have had to make a conscious decision that unless I am prevent what's going on from affecting me and those that are close to me. I'm not going to take part in the content that is just raising. So I had to tell myself to step away from that, to not read it, to not share it, and to not take part in it at all, because it affects my thoughts, it affects how I feel, and ultimately it affects my energy. And because I'm creative, in my view, beyond the pandemic, we are going, am I still there?
Sorry, Zianda, you are here. I just had to take your video away because I'm wondering whether that might have impact on your ability for us to hear you.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So I then said to myself, it may seem to me that beyond the pandemic, we're going to solve problems we know nothing about today. We're going to make recipes we've never known they existed before. And how do we start to shift, transform the manner in which we see things in ourselves in order for us to be ready for that type of innovation? And so I looked at the pandemic differently. I started to search for its gifts, was paying attention to how to prevent it from affecting us. I'm also focusing on what gifts does it give us. For me, number one, in the South African context, when they said lockdown, go stay at home, to me, it came across as I'm told to go backwards into my home, into myself. So in my view, the home is me. And I had to sit down with me and thoroughly look at my thinking patterns about my life, about the pandemic, about business, about things beyond me, and how I'm responding daily to what is going on. Remember, I was initially frustrated by staying at home because I'm a sociable person, but I had to interrogate that in terms of what am I always running towards? What am I running away from? And so to mean that the staying at home is, and in a nutshell, I say, if going back to basics was a pandemic, this would be, because we literally have been pulled backwards to start afresh, to go back to self. And secondly, what this pandemic has done is it has taken away the business of being busy and the focus on material things, because the cars are in the garages, the money is in the bank, you only use the minimal amount of money now. The clothes mostly are in the cupboard, and you are taken back to really focus on you. And I think it's important for us to go through the journey and understand that it's a unique journey for each one of us, because what I learned about myself will not be the same thing that you must learn about yourself. But ultimately, we're going to come out of this, or we should come out of this, with a different view about self and how we are leaders in the organizations we're in, or communities we are serving in. And secondly, I observed that when humans were pulled back to go in home themselves, nature was freed up. It may seem pollution is less. It may seem maybe, I don't know, maybe the fish is having fun at the beach right now because there's no pollution around that. And so there is something about us being pulled back, gifts to other parts of nature. So again, I asked myself, as leaders beyond the pandemic, what decisions need we make that are going to be environmentally friendly, but not necessarily business beneficial? And how are we going to deal with that? And I'm taking this time to think about those things, to think about how to help leaders think differently, because it may seem to me how we were before is never going to be. We have to create new beings in us, ourselves. Am I out of time, Louise?
You are out of time, and I'm conscious of the 8 minutes to the end of the call. So let's hear from one or two people who want to say something in response to Zianda. Maybe one person, just because of our time limit, and then we can have maybe final. So Kate, I don't know whether you still wanted to say something. I see Kay is unmuted. Kate, did you want to say something?
Hi, Louise. Yes. Zianda, thank you so much. I absolutely loved that that thought process in terms of the clothes are in the cupboard, the car's in the garage. You know, often we use these things to drive ourselves as sort of status, and we can't do that anymore, because we can sit here with our pajamas or our like most comfortable jerseys and feel absolutely comfortable in that space. And I think it's such a beautiful thought. So thank you for putting that into context, because yeah, we don't have the materialistic things to sort of front anymore, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to just be in the space of where you are just you. On a call, you're still mom and you still daughter and everything else. And we had the opportunity of, even on a call yesterday, seeing one of our colleagues with their little ones. And it was just so heartwarming that, you know, we can resonate with each other in this way. So lots of love. Thank you, Zianda, and all the other speakers. It was beautiful.
Thank you very much, Kay. So, so we've come to the end of the call. I've been saying to the Symphony Leadership Development team that I feel these calls are such beautiful opportunities for developing relationships and for people to get connected and to kind of practice a sense of generosity and community. So I'm sure you're going to hear from Nicolette and Kim as a follow-up on this call to see what we want to do together, what are the opportunities to play together as a result of kind of this new sense of community. So that's for kind of future. You'll probably get more invitations from us to join calls like this, and we'd love you to share your thoughts about what to add, what kind of calls you would like to be joining. We are seeing this period, this lockdown period, as our opportunity to just practice generosity. We're going to figure out the money when we come back into life again. Obviously, lots of concern from us as well around how do we keep paying salaries, etc. My sense is that for now we're just going to have to ask the bank and figure out a way. So, and I'm not going to get. I've decided I'm not getting dragged into that sense of anxiety, because it will steal all my joy, and I'm not going to allow that to happen. So thank you, everybody. I do want to now create, we've got 5 minutes, maybe 4 people to just share their final best thoughts in response to what happened in the last 85 minutes. Kate, this is your opportunity. If you wanted to say something, just unmute yourself, and then I'll introduce our speakers who's going to just respond. And anybody else who want to say something. I'm keeping my eyes on the list of speakers. If you unmute yourself, Liz, you are, if you can just unmute yourself, and then Kate, and then Natasha Miller after that. Liz?
Okay, thanks everyone. So in terms of the takeaway, I was tempted to talk about the serious stuff again, you know, using this time to finish up loose ends, to get all those projects that are unfinished and clear them off. But actually for myself, 3 simple goals. Make my bed every day, get properly dressed, and master the hula hoop by the end of 21 days. If I can tick those 3 things off, I'm happy.
The hula hoop. We want a video, hey?
There are several people who've said that.
Don't make that promise if you can't give the video after 21 days. Let's go to Kate, Blaine. I can't remember who the other person was that I said. And then I see Sharon's got a name on her hand up as well. Kate.
Thanks, Louise. Yeah, so first of all, just thank you to everybody for sharing and just for being so honest and so vulnerable. And yeah, and just kind of echoing, this is probably the first really honest conversation I've had about real emotions going on out there for everyone. And I also wanted to, the reason I wanted to say specifically after Robin's talk was, Robin, I just think it's so amazing that you have been through yourself what your clients have been through. And yeah, I can hear, I sort of picked up that you're a bit reticent about telling your story, but I think that a lot of your clients could benefit from your story. It's amazing to know that somebody who's helping you has actually been through the same experience. So yeah, don't hold back on that story whenever you feel it would help someone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Sharon Golding, I think you're going to be one of the last people to speak.
I'm going to try again and hope you can hear me. Thank you for all of the wisdom and the compassion from everyone. And my takeaway that I'm going to probably put on my mirror is, I think Robin, you said it, just to remember that we are comparing our inside with everyone else's outside. And that has had a huge impact on me, and I'm going to slap that into myself if there's nothing else I do. So thank you.
Stop comparing our insides with other people's outsides. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you, Sharon. I see there's no more activity on the chat. People are leaving because they have to go to another call. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. We'd love to have your feedback. Message will come your way to ask for feedback. Sorry, everybody. I was speaking, continuing to speak without being unmuted. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. We will ask you for feedback. You'll get a message from us, but we hope to remain connected, and we'll meet again like this online over the next few weeks. And good luck with hula hooping and everything else that people are, and making beds and washing dishes and making breakfast and all of those things that we tend to do during this time. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Louise.
Bye.